Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going through my full VCT Pacific Split 1 schedule predictions. I'm going to be going through every single game throughout the whole schedule and predicting who I think is going to win and who I think will end up making playoffs. And I won't go through actual playoff picks at that point because that's too far into the future. Um, but I'm going to be talking a lot more about the week 1 predictions in this game since I'm going to be doing weekly predictions in video form for every region except for China. So um, I'm gonna be talking about those more, especially because I care about those more. And I don't know. It's just this is for who I think is going to make playoffs and how I think these schedules for each team are going to play out. So I did this video for EMEA, so go check that out if you're interested in this. I also did power rankings for every region before this. Um, so go check all that out and stay tuned for Americas, which is coming out tomorrow. I'm just doing the exact same video for Americas, so go check that out tomorrow, and then all the content before that. And yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So originally, I'd put all the schedules into a Google Sheet and use that to predict, to go through every game on my own, and then I did the graphics on the VLR thing, but they changed how the upcoming games work on there, where it shows all the split 2 games as well, and I just don't think that looks good. I mean, this doesn't look great either, but this is going to be the best thing I got for this. So Paper X, I have them winning week 1 versus T1. I don't think that's too much of a shock to anybody. I think bringing in Jing here, they're just going to be back to what they were before. Maybe not instantly, but within a couple weeks. And even then, I still think, I mean, I think Sideshow put it best that they're going from a upset top 3 to a lock for top 3. And I don't think it makes them winning an event more likely, but I think in terms of winning games in the regular season, I think it makes it more likely. Just because I think their baseline is going to be a lot better. I don't think they're going to get worse than what they were with Meunier. I just only think they're going to get better. Maybe they can finally get over the hump one time. I'm not really sure. I still think they win this week 2 game versus Genji. I think Genji tapers off a little bit, which is why I have Paper X over them in my power rankings. Obviously, I think Genji is still going to be a top 2 team in Pacific and be able to contend for international wins, like tournament wins. So I don't know. I just think Paper X is going to be better than them, and then I just see no way Paper X loses any of these last 3 games, barring Bleed being good somehow. Um, and I still think their Team Secret's a good matchup for them. So I don't see them losing that game, and then obviously they're not losing to GE. So overall, 5-0 here for Paper X. Not a hot take at all. I think it'd be a hot take if I had them losing any of these games, honestly. And they should be able to kind of coast these last 3 games of the season, which should be very, very good for them heading into playoffs and Shanghai. All right, and moving on here to Genji, I have them going 4-2. I think they win this opening game versus Talon pretty easily. I think Talon's biggest strength as a team is individual play, and that is also Genji's biggest strength. So I don't see a world where Talon's individuals stack up to Genji, and Genji win that game pretty easily. Then I have them losing to Paper X. As I said before, I don't know. I just think Paper X is going to be better. Not too much to talk about there. Then they win versus DFM. Pretty simple as well. And then this last stretch of 3 games, I think they lose one of these games. I'm not necessarily saying that Zeta is a better team or anything like that. I think they just lose one of them. I'm not sure which one they lose, though. And I just picked Zeta because I think out of all the teams, their individuals stack up the best against Genji. So that is why I have them there. Then we have T1 here, who I have going 3-3. I don't know. I feel like this team is going to be a little inconsistent, start a little slow. This 1-3 start is not going to be great for them. But obviously, they get the win versus DFM. I already kind of talked about them playing against Paper X. I also think that's just a bad matchup for them. Paper X historically has always beaten T1. Maybe it's because they've always been a better team than T1, but I think they beat them in kickoff when looking not too great. Personally, I can't see T1 really beating Paper X there, even though I do have them as the 3rd best team in Pacific. I just don't know if that game's going to be too manageable for them. And I think they lose against their Korean counterpart and against RRQ, who I think are both going to be pretty decent teams. And then they kind of clutch up at the end of the year versus Talon and Zeta. I don't exactly remember where this put them in terms of playoffs, but it should put them in playoffs. Also, I'm not going to say that, but like necessarily definitively because I haven't revealed the rest of the schedule. But yeah, this is what I have for T1. I know some people probably aren't going to like them losing both of these games. Starting 1-3 isn't going to be super popular, but I still think they're going to be a pretty good playoff contender and a top 3 team in Pacific. So now moving on to DRX, who I have going 3-2, playing the 5-game schedule here. I've been losing to Team Secret in week 1. I just really like the matchup historically between these two teams for Team Secret. Historically, Team Secret's put in a really good anti-strat on DRX every time they've played each other. I really think Team Secret should have won that playoff game that they played versus DRX last year, where they kind of threw bind by subbing out Envy and subbing in Lene just to play Gecko. Otherwise, they would have been at Tokyo and Champs instead of DRX, or maybe instead of another team that made it, like T1 maybe, or something like that. I don't know exactly who would have gone and who wouldn't have, but yeah, I don't know. I really think Team Secret's going to win that game. I don't necessarily think Team Secret's the better team by any means, but I think they'll win that one. Then GE, pretty simple. GE is not good. T1, again, I don't know. I think they'll just win this game. Like, there's a lot of just like gut feeling that goes into these schedule predictions, especially down like in games down here. I don't know. I just think they'll win that game. And then Genji, I think Genji's just the better team, straight up. I do think T1 is slightly better, but this game should be like a 50-50 at the time, is kind of what my thought process was. And I just went DRX there. Just like, I guess, player history, if you want to say that. And then Bleed also sucks, so I have them winning against Bleed. Pretty simple there. And then moving on here to Team Secret, who I have winning week 1 versus DRX, kind of what I said. They put in a good anti-strat. I do really believe in the coaching staff here of Warbirds specifically. I just really like this team. They're one of the few teams with like NA roots in coaching, which is very good, I think, in Pacific, just because there's not a ton of good coaches outside of like really just Alex. And I always forget the Genji's coach's name. Someone can correct me in the comments. But him as well, I guess. Hasn't had a ton of like history, but you could say him. But yeah, I just really believe in that there. Then they lose versus RRQ. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that they'll win that game. And maybe not. I think that's a 50. I don't know why I said that. Sometimes I just say things and don't really believe them. That one, I just think they lose. I don't think this team is going to be like beating the top teams. I don't think they're going to be beating teams. Or I do think they'll beat like teams below them. Like potentially Zeta could be week to week as a team. DFM is bad. And I think sometimes like a team like Talon could come up and beat them in terms of firepower. They're not beating Paper Rex, I can tell you that. And then I think RRQ is just like that 50-50 game where like you just pick a team. And I just believe in I believe in the coaching staff of RRQ actually, which is one of the few teams that is good. And I believe in the individual talent on that team a little bit more. Like Jemkin, I think Estrella has been good. He hasn't been good in tier 1 yet. I don't think he was great. And then both teams have that player that's just not good. In terms of RRQ having Elmamore and Team Secret having Borkum. But I think Elmamore is just has a little bit more like firepower and potential to pop off than Borkum does. So that's why I have them winning that game. I did not like actually put that much thought into that game, by the way. I don't really put a ton of thought into these. I just like, I could see that happening, maybe pick that there kind of thing. So I just kind of tried to explain it afterwards, just to have some substance in the video, you know? Yeah, moving on now. And then Zeta here, I have going 3-2, getting the 2 wins over the 2 bad teams. There's just simply no way they lose to GE. Like, I know a lot of people are really low on Zeta because they went out in pretty poor fashion in play-ins. But also, I don't know, man. That game was useless for them, I'm pretty sure, at the end. Like, they couldn't ever make it out. So, I don't know. I think some people are too low on this team, but like GE running terrible comps, Zeta is just running like pretty much default stuff across the board, and just having generally good individual players. I don't know how people predict GE to win that game. Like Zeta, yeah, sure didn't look great, but GE looked worse. And Zeta went from beating them like they just won the game like 13-9, 13 whatever. Like it was I think it was 13-10, 13-7 in the first game, a 2-0. The second game was like a 13-4, 13-3 or something like that. Just absolute demolition. So I don't see how GE wins this game. Um, yeah, I don't know. And then Team Secret, I talked about. I think Zeta's going to be a little inconsistent. Then Bleed get a win over the other bad team and that they're playing against. Genji, they'll be a little week to week in the other direction now, looking really good against Genji, and then I think they just end up losing to T1, just because of like lack of structure stuff. I guess I don't know. Which, like, obviously them beating Genji then losing to T1 when I have Genji over T1 is a little like, well, what are you doing there? But like upsets happen. A lot of upsets happen. Like just look at the America schedule last year. Like MIBR beat NRG and 100 Thieves. Like, be for real here. Then moving on to Talon here, who I'm also going 3-2. I think they also beat the two bad teams. Some people are picking Bleed, and I think it's just NA people having cope on because Bleed has NA players and Zest. Bleed is terrible. I'll talk more about how bad they are when we actually get to Bleed. But Talon is just the better team. They are better in every aspect, including individual players. Even with Talon having Scary, Ye, and Zest, there's just no way. Even if Ye goes back into fucking, I'll save that actually. I'll save that for later. But yeah, they lose versus Genji. Pretty simple. As I said, like Talon very individual based. Genji is also very individual based, and Genji has better individuals. So there you go. GE, Talon's the better team. T1. Again, I think T1 just diffs Talon individually, and Talon's too individual based to lose that. And then I think Talon gets their revenge for getting eliminated in kickoff, and just firepower diffs Team Secret. And then moving on to RRQ, which I do think is my hottest take of the whole schedule. I think they win versus Team Secret week 1. I think that was a pretty 50-50 game. Then they beat Bleed and GE, who are bad teams. And then I think they get the upset win in the middle of the year versus T1, and then lose versus Genji, which shakes out to 4-1. I don't think they are as good as this record indicates, because there were teams like Furia who were really good mid-season, ranked as like, I mean, Plecha had them as like the #1 team in Americas going into week 3 or 4 or something like that, which was just absurd, by the way. I was never on that train. And I still think throughout this run, I still would not rank RRQ higher than like 4th in Pacific. But I don't know. Like, unless they're destroying Team Secret, Bleed, and GE, which I don't think they're going to destroy T1. I don't know. I do believe in this roster. I think Jemkin's a really good player. He'll continue to get better. Estrella is going to be better than he was at kickoff. Yeah. I don't know. This one could definitely not happen along with, like, my Na'Vi take that I had. Like, some 50-50 games could go the other way. Like, both these games could go the other way, and RRQ could end up being 2-3, and the spread looks wrong. So I implore you to look at my power rankings more honestly for these in terms of how good I think the teams are. But you can definitely come at me for these 2 games, I'd say. Just don't come after me after one game kind of thing, because I'll just think you're an idiot no matter what happens the rest of the season. So, yeah. Moving on. Then, moving on to GE, I think they are just the worst team in all of these matchups. We'll try to speed through some of these, because GE is just not good. In my power rankings, I had them a tier above Bleed in DFM, just because I think they're not, like, horrifically bad. Like, there is some thought behind some of their comps and some of their ideas. Maybe not their bind comp, but I think they looked okay on some of the other maps. But I think they get firepower diffed, idea diffed, it's fucking everything diffed in all these games, and only win because they're going to win against DFM. Then Bleed, same deal, except maybe less firepower stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't know what team here they diff in terms of firepower. Maybe RRQ if Yay is in form, which was the take that I was gonna say in, I think it was the RRQ section, was that even if Yay goes back to prime like 2022 optic form, this team is still not making playoffs. I'm sorry. The calling is going to be so bad that it won't matter. Um, and like the just general ideas and comps and everything like that, all that stuff is going to be so bad that it won't matter. Obviously, they won't be like 1-5 bad. Like I think they'll probably go like 2-4, 3-3, somewhere in there, but still end up missing playoffs. And yeah, I don't know. I don't see how they make it out of their group and even into like international events, which I do think this core should still have expectations of doing. Then last up here, we have DFM going 0-5, which I could see them winning a game in here, specifically against Bleed or GE. I just need to see it first before I predict this organization to win a VCT game. Like, I'm just not going to do it until they win a game. Then maybe I'll, like, if they beat Bleed, then maybe I'll pred them to beat GE, depending on what happens. But overall, again, this team is bad. May is good, but the rest of the team kind of sucks. So, overall, these predictions shake out to this. I have Gen G T1 Team Secret making it from Group A. Pretty simple. Bleed and GE going 1-5 and missing out on playoffs. Then Group B here gets really complicated. Paper X RRQ make it out, which I don't think RRQ is a top 2 team in this group. I think DRX and Zeta are better teams right now, at least, specifically DRX. But between these 3 teams, it's going to be whoever wins like by more, or like who has a better map or round differential, I think, because they're not going to be playing head to head. So I think it's probably going to be DRX. I think they'll play these 2 games closer, and I think they'll absolutely beat the shit out of Gen G and Bleed. But yeah, I don't know. This does get weird. Like I think, wait, DRX Zeta, like Zeta is gonna end up punching up more by beating Gen G. So I don't know. I think Zeta's gonna be too week to week. They're gonna lose some games by a lot. Talon, kind of same thing. They'll lose some games by a lot. And then obviously DFM going on 5. So let me know what you think of these in the comments below. I know RRQ is definitely a hot take. Potentially Zeta missing playoffs is a hot take. Maybe Bleed being this bad. Out of any of those things, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Really curious to hear how people think of these. Also, how is Gen G 1 and I meant to put Gen G as 4 and 2. So ignore this. They're still the top team in the group regardless. So I don't know. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one for America's full schedule predictions. And then we're on to the full VCT season after that, which I'm very excited for. So yeah, see you guys in the next one. Peace.